What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
And together we are last week's album, The Only Reviews with two different views. And this week we're talking about the new album by your friend called Gumption and asking the big question, does the album's dreaminess make you feel brave or bored? Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
Cheers, Kevin, everyone at home.
A little background on your friend. In case you didn't know your friend, that is the moniker of the Lawrence, Kansas-based singer-songwriter Taryn Miller. She makes sort of dreamy indie rock. She had a much buzzed about debut EP called Jekyll/Hyde in 2014. And this is her debut LP. She recorded it with producer Nicholas Vernis, who's worked with The War on Drugs and Deer Hunter, to name a few. Let's talk about what it sounds like. Derek, what do you think?
Kevin, I think your friend sounds like Bon Iver listened to Death Cab For Cutie before recording a solo album at his backwoods beach house.
Ooh, I see what you did there, and I like it. I think this sounds like Tycho calls the Polica to investigate strange sounds that go Brian Eno in the night.
Yes, I dig it. I dig it.
That was fun. Now let's talk about some highlights. Derek, what did you like?
Kevin, some highlights for me were the tracks Heathering and Come Back From It. Heathering, I thought, set a really strong tone for the dreamy waves of sound that would ensue. Another thing that really jumped out to me were the synths on Nothing Moved. They really raised the track's intensity, building from a faint, barely there sound at the beginning to an almost overwhelming whirring buzz at the end. So just really in that one kind of instrument really did a lot for the entire track.
I agree on Heathering for sure. I thought the best tracks on the album were the bookends, Heathering and Who Will I Be in the Morning. I think your friend has a knack for these really meticulous, highly textured soundscapes that really show a dedication to craft and style and attention to detail overall.
Yeah, the layered sounds, totally agree with you. Definitely a strength there. But I think, as you know, kind of touch on later, I think maybe that was also an Achilles heel to some extent.
Let's talk about those lowlights. What did you not like, Derek?
One low light for me was the track Desired Things. This one was one of the more minimalist tracks on the album. I think it really tried to build some tension through the sparser instrumentation, but it really didn't do it for me, I guess.
It's funny you didn't like that song because that was also my low light track. I thought sometimes she meanders on this album, and that song to me was the biggest sort of aimless track. And I thought you really just kind of lose interest when you're listening to it and didn't really hold my attention. I also thought overall it's a very nuanced record, but for the average listener, a little too nuanced. You've really got to sink your teeth into this and listen to it hard to come away with a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think even from my own reaction, sometimes I felt like I got lost in the sound. And then sometimes I felt like I was completely lost by the sound. It just, it got too technical maybe.
And with that, let's talk about overall rating and answer the big question. Does the album's dreaminess make you feel brave or bored? Derek, what do you think?
Kevin, to answer the big question, you know, at first it made me feel really brave. And then I was kind of bored. And then a quick uptick in courage before returning to bored again. The ambient sounds I think she crafted were very strong, but at times it became overwhelming. At times I felt a little too aimlessly wandering for me. That runs the risk of losing listeners altogether. Some tracks were a little too slow to build for my taste, but you know, taking a step back and realizing that this is her first LP. I think there's a lot of strong things here. You know, so the pros outweighing the cons, and that brings me to an overall rating of 3 out of 5.
Does this album make me feel brave or bored? I think both at different times. This is one of those albums you have to spend time with. If more experimental sounds excite you, it'll probably leave you feeling brave and inspired by her sort of courage to explore new sounds. But if you prefer catchy, more instantly gratifying sounds, you'll probably get a little bored with this one, although you might like her EP, Jekyll/Hyde, a little bit better. Overall, rating-wise, I think it's dreamy, it's mesmerizing, it's slightly haunting. I thought she did a nice expansion of her sort of simpler folk sound from her EP, She incorporated drones and loops and field recordings. I think it's a good album for meditating or winding down. It's great as an artistic vision, maybe not so great as a really compelling listen. So I'm giving it an overall rating of 3 out of 5 as well. So with that score and Derek's, that makes it combined a 6 out of 10. So check out your friend and check out Gumption. See what you think of it. Maybe it'll be your friend a little bit more than it was ours. Definitely let us know what you think of it. Don't forget to subscribe to us here at Last Week's Album, either on the YouTube channel or the podcast. And as always, I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
And we are Last Week's Album, the only reviews with 2 different views. Cheers, guys.